The battle over legalizing medical marijuana rages on. Some Utah patients say they can't wait any longer for a decision.
Tonight, a Good4 Utah special report. Chief Political Correspondent Glenn Mills examines the next steps towards legalization and how Utahns are seeking relief out of state. He joins us now in studio with the story.
Well, you guys, the debate here in the state of Utah is far from over. Lawmakers, police agencies, and advocates all working together right now on a bill that could pass the legislature next year. In the meantime, though, Utah families are packing up and finding refuge in other states. Not far from the Utah border along Interstate 70 sits the small town of Fruita, Colorado. It's the place Michael and Enandina Stanger are now calling home. The place they are starting over with new friends, a new ward, and hopefully a new career. That's still in the works.
I mean, we came here and luckily we got into the house and started to get established before I ran out of, income.
Their journey out of Utah began when Enandina started suffering from the effects of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a rare collagen disorder that causes her joints to regularly pop out of place.
Everybody has their limitations. My limitation is snapping in every bone of my body every time I try to move.
Prescription drugs only complicated that limitation.
One of the worst days of my life was when she had a drug-induced seizure on the way home from the hospital because of the drugs that they gave her.
So Enandina turned to medical marijuana.
It doesn't cure the condition, and that's the thing. Only God can cure all diseases, right? But for me, it mitigates the symptoms enough that I can live a normal life.
But in Utah, it's illegal, and the consequences led to a horrifying reality.
My daughters, they have nightmares all the time, and their biggest nightmare is getting taken away by the man that came already and threatened to take them away.
DCFS started to get involved after Enandina was charged with felony child endangerment. She says she was smoking medical marijuana in the car while Michael and the girls were inside a store. She ended up pleading guilty to possession of marijuana in a drug-free zone, a Class A misdemeanor. She was sentenced to 6 months probation and ordered to take a parenting class. This was her reaction after getting booked into jail in December of last year.
I just really hope that this never has to happen again.
Acting on that wish and wanting to make sure the family could never get torn apart, they decided to make the move to Colorado. State Representative Gage Froer says the Stangers are a perfect example of why Utah needs to act.
The state has no business getting in the way of patients' and doctors' decisions on what's right for the patient.
A few years ago, Froer sponsored HB 105, also known as Charlie's Law. It legalized the use of cannabis oil for children with epilepsy. He says now it's time to expand on that.
If you look at the research coming out of major universities like Harvard, that there's no question that medical marijuana has a place to help a significant number of people.
This year, 2 bills went head-to-head with the same result. Both failed. Senator Mark Madson's SB 73 attempted to legalize the whole plant, or THC, for certain chronic conditions. Senator Evan Vickers' SB 89 would have expanded the legal use of cannabis oil to more Utahns. Froer wants to pick up the banner with one bill that combines elements of both, and that's the sticking point. There is strong opposition to legalizing THC.
And right now, the Attorney General's been asked to overlook prosecuting marijuana issues. Is that going to change? I don't know. But as long as it's not legal on the federal level, I'm not willing to mess with it on the state level.
State Representative Paul Ray sat on the House committee that held hearings on the 2 bills. He voted no on both, but believes there is a way to get something done with SB 89 as the foundation.
It'd have to be an oil or a pill type form. It certainly wouldn't be growing and smoking marijuana. And then we'd have to be able to tie down the processing and the grows, those kinds of things to make them safer. Make sure that there's quality control involved with it.
Ray and Froer agree the future should not include recreational use in Utah. They're part of a task force working to find common ground for a bill to introduce next year. As that group hammers out the path forward, the Stangers are praying that that path leads home.
I miss Utah every day. My kids cry every day missing their grandparents. And my husband, I know it would be a lot easier back at home. Like, we miss it every single day. We would have rather been there.
It's really interesting. So, Glenn, if the legislature doesn't come up with a compromise that can actually work, is there another way medical marijuana can be legalized?
There is, and one group is actually working on an alternative that would take it out of the hands of the legislature altogether. Right now, they are working on finalizing language for a ballot initiative. Now, because of the process it's in, it's not public, but I am being told that the language would be similar to SB 73 before it was amended, so that means it would include access to the full plant.
And when you say ballot initiative, immediately people start thinking, okay, that's when I vote. Is it going to be something they vote on this November?
No, because it's really a long process, and the reality is that they just do not have enough time to get that done this year. Now here's the thing, it won't happen next year either. That's because a statewide ballot initiative has to be done on an even year. So if it's successful and there is no solution from the legislative level, Utah voters could ultimately make the decision in the general election of 2018, so a couple of years down the road.
Wow.